Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of From the District with State Senator Suzanne Weber. We are joined, as always, with our illustrious senator, who is indeed from the district today, Senator Suzanne Weber. Senator,
Good morning.
holy crap! Is it June 29th yet?
No, it's not. Actually, it's been June 29th for weeks now, but we just haven't got it on the calendar.
Every year we do this, and you guys do pull motions, right? A pull motion is you're trying to pull this bill out of this committee to vote on it, and this bill out of this committee to vote on it, and this bill out of this committee. Every year I try to get you guys to do a pull motion on the sine die bill so we could just pull that and vote on that. I bet that thing
now, yes, that would be the best idea yet. It really would. But we've got, some really heavy lifts coming.
We do.
And the other thing is we haven't spent a lot of time on the floor.
Yeah.
And so now we're looking at this next week, spending more time, and Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, and that happens. We try to avoid that for as long as we can, going on to Fridays and then even on Saturdays. I guess the fact that we're almost at the end and we're just starting them, it could be worse, but still we don't like it, because who likes to work on Saturdays?
Well, yes, and there's so much all of a sudden, so many emotional things occurring, toward the end of the season. There's an article today in the Oregonian on legislators crying on the floor.
Yeah, I saw that, and I think I am well documented within our office of saying there's no crying in politics.
We have a sticker in our office that says that very same thing.
Right. Look, we do hard stuff. This is a hard game, and I get it. But if you're crying on the floor every other minute, buck up, buddy. This is hard work, and it's not. I'm not saying this isn't. There isn't emotional stuff, but.
Well, I've found that these emotions going forward don't carry much weight when it comes to somebody voting.
Yeah, you crying on the floor is not going to make me vote for your bill, right? I mean, that's if it's bad bill, you crying doesn't make it a good bill. But there is some heavy stuff going on right now. We're recording this.
Oh, yes.
We do want to acknowledge one thing in particular, and that is, well, let's actually start this way. As we are doing this the day after a rather large amount of protests among within the country, in the state of Oregon as well, happened. I think I was very pleased to see that in District 16 that they were peaceful.
Very peaceful. And
there were
lots of people gathered.
Yeah, and there were counter protests that come out too, and who had different opinions. I think they were jocular. I wouldn't say they were jocular, but they were certainly they certainly kind of chirped at each other, and that's just like you go out and do that. Yes. That happen.
And it was also the beginning of Farmers Market in Tillamook.
Oh, yeah,
so it brought a lot of people to the downtown.
Yeah. Well, hey, so that's a good thing, right? Yes. And so that we do want to acknowledge that happened. I don't know that it changed anybody's mind, but it gave everybody an outlet, I suppose.
No, I think it gave everyone an outlet.
Yeah, which is good, but I think in other parts, not in District 16, places that are more urban, we saw a different situation where the protests were not just people who were frustrated and needed an outlet, but honestly were probably a little bit more professional, and quite frankly, it was an excuse to get violent. We saw that in Portland. We saw that in a number of cities across the country. And
I think the headline today in Portland said tens of thousands.
Yeah,
and they had a picture of people, and I don't know if it's tens of thousands, but I think they had 4 or 5 of those gatherings in Portland in different areas.
I don't know. Like, I'm sure most of the people, the vast majority of the folks went out, like I said, were just upset and they wanted an outlet.
Yes.
But I would say that when you when your gathering turns violent, even if it's not your fault, it really negates your point of view.
It does.
People just paint the entire thing with that brush, and so that's why it's so important. I don't care what you're protesting about, is to keep it polite, keep it professional, keep it peaceful.
That's when you're going to have people listen to you.
Right. When things just keep turning into riots, I'm just it's those guys again, right? These people who would protest a sunny day.
Yes.
Because they like
and then there was the tragic things that happened also, with what happened in Minnesota, and that is tragic.
Yeah.
Very tragic.
And we saw in Texas, the legislature was closed down. Well, they died, but the building was closed down.
And we had a meeting yesterday afternoon at 3:00 with the state police and the FBI, a Teams meeting to talk about it, and steps going forward to make sure that everybody was safe, and to assure everyone that they are monitoring, especially any kind of chatter on media, so that they can make sure that we're going to be kept safe. And of course there will be an increased appearance of police in the building.
Right. Yeah. Those who didn't, I'm sure everybody's heard, but those who haven't, two legislators were gunned down in their homes on a few days ago. We're recording this on Sunday the 15th.
So I think it was Friday night, wasn't it?
I believe it was Friday night.
Yes.
In Minnesota, we don't know why. I mean, there's people who have thoughts. They have identified the person. They haven't caught him yet.
They haven't caught him yet.
But it seemed to be a gentleman who had worked for Governor Walz. But that's about all we know, right? I don't know why, but
well, it points to a lot of deficiencies in our mental health capacity to help people, and to think about all the years where we haven't taken the threats of folks with mental health seriously, and made sure that they have the care that they need to be able to continue in life.
Yeah, I think that's true. I also think there is a reality in that people have just gotten too passionate about politics, and I think it's fine to be passionate about politics. Is a good thing, but there are some people. There's a lot fewer people go to church these days, and it seems like they've made politics their religion. And if their religion is threatened, they're going to become very, very violent about that. I mean, people who have the religion threatened do get quite dedicated to the cause, and it just almost seems like that's been a replacement for some people.
I think so too. But I encourage people, like when I talked to the group last night in McMinnville, I said, learn about what politics are, and make sure that you have the right information going forward, because so much of what people get comes off of social media, and they don't take the time to do the in-depth research as to what it really is.
Yeah, and it seems that we've moved away from just having, we used to say that we all want the same thing, we have different ways of getting there, and that's the disagreement. I just don't think we want the same things anymore.
I don't think we do.
And that's why I think we've gotten so worked up over this, is that it's no longer, well, we want a thriving economy, and the Republicans want to get to a thriving, think the best way to do it is this way, and the Democrats think it's this way. We all want a thriving economy.
Right.
So many different things. It really is a kind of a struggle for what we want a society to be. And that's why there's the tensions are what they are. But let's talk about something else that's tension filled. Shall we?
Talk about transportation.
Let's talk about transportation. We've been talking about the fact that we can't talk about transportation for a while because you have been involved in negotiations about what a
Right.
transportation package should be. Unfortunately, those negotiations have been cut
Oh,
off
yes.
unexpectedly when the Democrats unilaterally introduced HB 2025,
Right.
which I,
It,
I,
you know, we were negotiating and coming to agreement on a lot of things.
you were, and
And and of course we weren't going fast enough, but we were running out of time. We also had other things to do in our jobs.
well, and the thing is that when you have something this big, we talked about this, I think last week. Um, it's okay to sine die, and then come back
Yes.
with a special session on something that's this important and this big,
Yes.
so that you get it right. And I had to laugh. The chairs of transportation, Senator Gorsuch and Representative McLean,
Representative McLean.
yeah, they had an op-ed in the Oregonian this morning
Yes, they
saying
did.
that the whole state is rallying around HB 2025, and I heartily disagree that they are rallying
Oh
around.
my goodness sakes. And have I heard it, especially this weekend, with everything else that's going on, people are very upset about this
So
and what it's going to cost people, what it's going to cost retired people who
Yeah.
live in rural areas, especially.
this is again, folks, if you're upset with the Trump administration, that is fine.
Fine.
But maybe pull yourself away from the drama of the federal government and federal politics and bring yourself here into state and local world that is actually going to affect you directly all of the time.
Yeah.
Can we, Senator, if you don't mind, I'd like to go through what HB 2025 will do.
Yes.
It's going to cost about $1 billion per year. Right?
A year.
So first thing, gas tax. We all know the gas tax.
Right.
Right now, it's about 40 cents per gallon.
It is 40 cents a gallon. Yes.
Right now, this would immediately pop that up to 55 cents per gallon. Right. So about
Yes.
30% or 40% increase in that.
Right.
Then starting in 2029, it would tie the gas tax to inflation.
Yes. So we could possibly within 10 or 15 years, depending upon inflation, see a gas tax that is no longer 40 cents a gallon, but something like 84 to 85 cents a gallon.
Right. I love it.
We'd win the prize, I'm sure, nationally.
I love it when people say it just ties it to inflation. But which I mean is cost of living, right?
Right.
If it goes down, would the gas tax go down, Senator?
No.
So it's not really tied to inflation. It just goes up.
Always it's just going to go up. That's all that's been predicted is a rise.
Right.
Which is, it really doesn't show a lot of confidence in our economy, does it?
Right. It does not. Another thing that's been talked about, and I think this has been kind of beta tested in a number of places, and I think voluntarily beta tested by some insurance companies, is the charge per mile driven, the new
rate mile.
Rate per mile charge, right? So that doesn't exist here now, but it would under this bill.
Right. But there have been some people who have voluntarily been participating in that program.
More power to them.
Yes, but it will be increased though. It's going to be the plugins that are, well, it's electric, and then it's the, what do you call them when they're both? Yeah, and then it's going to go to high mileage cars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
it's going to increase as we go.
Eventually, it hits everybody.
Yes, you're right. So you're going to have that, and what is that going to do to gas tax? It's not going to lower gas tax, and it's not going to keep it off the pump.
And I am not opposed to this in theory if you're just using it for electric cars, because right now electric cars, they don't pay gas tax, obviously, right? So if we want to even the score out there, I think it's perfectly reasonable to make that the way they do it. We had a bill, you had a bill that would have just raised the registration fee
Right.
on electric cars, but they decided to go this route. I think one of the frustrations that we all have is that now it's going to go to everybody.
But we had raising the registration rate. But in the meantime, we also had rebates if you bought an electric car. So that was, coming out of that pool of money too.
Right. Car title fees right now, $77, would go up 136% to $182.
Yes.
That's a chunk of change.
It is.
Payroll transit tax. Again, this is for transit. Right now, 0.1% of your paycheck. This would raise it 300% to
Yes.
3%. Doesn't sound like much, but it is not nothing, right?
Well, yeah, but it's the the entirety paying for 2% of the population.
Right. So right now, if you're making $100,000, you're making $100,000 a year, right? I
Yes.
just did some quick math, and it's 0.1%. You're paying about $100 per year. This would make it so you're paying $300 per year.
Yes.
Not a big deal, I would think, if I'm using transit a lot, right? But folks
Right.
in Senate District 16, they don't use transit very much because it's not there.
They have a tax base. However, they need money because, their dial-a-ride and all those things, are increasing the accessibility, but, the people riding the buses.
Right.
And then paying the drivers. They need an additional revenue source. But is this the, most,
It's not the time, right?
Right. It's not the time.
I think we're going through, we're going to keep going through these, but I think the Republicans had a bill that was fairly revenue neutral that was just focused on roads, bridges, the
Right.
the stuff that's crumbling, right?
Right.
Not transit, not all of those sorts of things, not things that are special projects of the environmental community, just roads and bridges. That apparently was not good for the majority party, and so here we've got this. Registration fees for your car now $43 currently, going up 163% to
$113. Yes.
Right. Now here's
there was something that was very disconcerting about bringing this bill in on Monday at 8:00 in the morning to everyone, and then looking at it on Monday afternoon as to, what is it going to do? And then Senator Meek asked the question about how much is this going to cost, and versus how much do we need? And there were no numbers available.
Right.
And I have gotten some numbers as of Thursday night or Friday morning, which I have still got to figure out what all it exactly means. But you would think that if you came forward with such an aggressive package, you would also have the money figured out as to what you need and how much this package is going to bring in totally. Okay, we've calculated, and we think we know that this is going to cost it, $1 billion a year. But what's the real cost? And how does it fit in with ODOT's budget? And is it going to continually work on ODOT's budget? Or is it going to be supplementing nonprofits or other areas? I mean, we don't know. We had 4 days of public hearings once it was introduced on Monday, at about 3 hours a crack, with everyone coming in to say whether they supported it or not. But how we're going to go forward with this information, I don't know. How are we going to how are we going to rationalize this? What is it going to look like in the end?
Right.
Hopefully, it's not going to look anything like what is coming out of there right now.
Yeah. But we're
Yeah.
we're not even half done here, Senator. We're not even half done.
Okay, keep going.
Now, Oregonians have pretty strong opinions about sales taxes, right?
Yes,
right?
But we've got sales tax.
Well,
we just don't call them that.
It looks like we might have a couple more. Because part of this package has a 2% sales tax on new cars and 1% sales tax on used cars. I just bought a new car, and I can tell you just quick math. If this were on the car I just purchased, I would have had to pay an extra $1,200 on my
in taxes. Yes.
Yep, in taxes, $1,200. And then right now there actually already is
there is
a 0.5% a tax on
there is.
But this would add, in addition to
right.
And above and beyond that would double, and then they would add another 2% above that. In this, Okay, we're gonna move forward.
It's so exasperating.
New driver's license.
Yes,
right now
new driver's license.
$58. This would make it to $100. Okay, I have always said, why don't they take these fees, not the gas tax, but your average fee that you always have to pay, like getting your license plate, getting your driver's test, things like that. Tie that to a cost of living, right? That goes up 2 or 3% every year.
Yes,
I get that. That's understandable. But when you have entire taxes that are tied to CPI, that's a problem.
Well, okay, you renew your driver's license, but you take the test. Just to take the test, it's going to now cost you $111.
Right. Well, it goes from $45 to $100.
And the permit is going to cost you the same thing, $111.
Well, here's one that gets me, and it just seems like another opportunity to stick it to the working class. Right now, to get your CDL, is $145, right? $145. To get your CDL out of this would be $540. Who's getting CDLs? What isn't Intel workers? It's your dump truck drivers, it's your log truck drivers, it's your garbage truck drivers.
Yes.
It's your long haul truckers. It's those guys that apparently the Democrats have a problem with because they stick it to them every single session. And here we are again.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so exasperating. It really is.
I'm just going to plow through the rest of these because we could be here all day and I'm getting mad. Let's see here. Motorcycle endorsement, currently $60 would go up to $105. Motorcycle registration, $44 go up to $110. Utility trailer registration, $63 would go up to $129. Heavy trailer trip permit, currently $10 would go up to $27, and farm endorsement, important to us, $26 would go up to $87, 235%.
You notice how many of those increases are in the 100+%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And it may only seem like, oh, well, it's $7 from $7 written test to $10 written test. What's a 43% increase?
Yes.
Did the cost of doing this go up 43%?
No,
this is just a money grab.
Yeah.
Right. And you guys introduced a bill that would have gotten us where we need to go. That was pretty much budget neutral. You can assume there's probably going to be some overruns. But that wasn't enough. They have to do all of these pet projects.
Right. Right. And there's so many of them.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
So where do we go from here, Senator?
I will tell you that if you know, in case you didn't notice, the tire tax is off the table, though.
I guess I'll take our wins where we can get them.
Yes. Yeah.
So one positive thing, I think, is that this will require 3/5 majority.
In both houses.
Both chambers.
Both chambers.
That means every single Democrat will have to vote for it in the Senate. And in the House, I believe they will need 36 votes. I believe there are currently 35 Democrats. Well, with a vacancy, or did that get filled yet?
I think the vacancy has been filled.
Okay, I don't know that she's been.
She was sworn in.
Was okay. Well, there also perhaps a challenge is that there is one member who is very, very, very ill.
Yes.
Who will not be able to be there. She won't be present to vote. So for all intents and purposes, right now the Democrats have 35 votes. They will need a Republican to come over to vote for this. Do you foresee that happening?
I'm sure for the Democrats, hope springs eternal. I personally don't see that happening. At least I am hoping that I have enough faith in my folks in the House to take our constituents and put them primary in their thoughts.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Uh-oh. Somebody's here.
Come here.
Is it Martin? Hi, Martin.
Martin came home.
Oh, hello, Martin. Hello, Martin.
Come here. Quit making your noise.
We need levity.
Martin, get over here.
So, Senator, as we go forward, I think I heard on another podcast that did concern me is that we may be in a situation where the Democrats are in a mood to barter, because realizing they're going to need at least one Democrat in one chamber, and that maybe they would kill a gun bill if a Republican would vote for this.
Well, actually, I have been asked, what do I need?
A new bill, right?
Well, yeah, what I said was I need at least $50 million for the Wilson River Highway.
Yeah.
But, that's not going to happen.
Right.
Because this is so egregious. This could never be a yes vote. But, there is also the possibility there's a PAC being formed that it may get to the ballot.
Yeah. That would be interesting to see how the people would vote on that.
Well, it's interesting to see how much money that they have already raised.
Really, very interesting. What side is it? On the pro side or on the anti side?
Anti.
Yeah. People don't like taxes. I mean, we can say Oregon like them. They'll pass a school bond. They'll do stuff for their local communities, but they don't like state taxes. They just don't.
No.
And they tend to get shot down when it happens. So I've also heard that, we've talked about the kicker being rated for wildfires, that maybe that would go away if they could get some votes on this.
Well, there's also another issue that's involved in this, and that's the CPP, or, cap and invest, or cap and trade. And
right.
And those funds that are generated through that was put into effect by Governor Brown. What that money is being used for now is for an NGO.
Yeah.
And so what if that money could be reallocated to cover wildfire and transportation issues?
Do you know how much that is, Senator?
No, I don't.
Unfair for me to ask you that off the top of your head, but it just kind of blows my mind that we have this giant fight over cap and trade, that legislators walk out to block cap and trade. A version of it is administratively put in by the governor, and that money is given to a nonprofit.
Yes. Isn't that amazing?
For pet projects.
Yes.
Okay. Well, so right now, this bill is sitting in the Joint Committee on Transportation Reinvestment.
Yes.
Not Joint Committee on Transportation, but the Joint Committee on Transportation Reinvestment, which you do not sit on.
Well, I'm still sitting on Joint Transportation. Is it now called Reinvestment?
Yep.
I'm also on the bridge. So.
Oh, yeah, I see what I see. That was my fault. They've renamed it.
They've renamed it.
On transportation reinvestment. So you are on that. So that bill is currently in transportation, and it has had now three public hearings and an informational hearing, whatever.
Yes. And they have got 3 meetings scheduled for this week.
Okay. So certainly the thing to do, everyone, if you have not done it yet, is go to olis.oregonlegislature.gov.
Come here.
While the senator is yelling at Martin. Go to olis.oregonlegislature.gov. Go up to the top right corner of that page and click Bills. The tab should automatically come up as bill number. So you just type 2025 right there. Okay, and that should automatically take you to HB 2025. Then on the top there, underneath the number HB 2025, you should see overview, text, analysis, amendments, testimony. All the things are great to read, but the important thing I think to look at is the submit testimony button.
Yes.
And that submit testimony, as soon as the new meetings are posted.
Right, because you have 48 hours.
Yeah.
From the beginning of the meeting.
Right.
To be able to submit testimony on it.
Yeah. Right now, because as you and I are recording this on the 15th Sunday, the new meetings have not posted yet, so you wouldn't be able to submit it. But when the new meetings are posted, you click submit testimony and you will be able to submit. You can type it into a text box. You can upload a PDF if you've got presentations or data that you want to share that you think is important. You can do that. It's just so important.
It is.
This is what you can do.
People need to be heard from.
You can also go to the Joint Committee on Transportation Reinvestment page. You will see the list of all the people on that committee. You may email them directly.
Yes, you may.
What you think of HB 2025. Be concise, be professional, be firm. Do not use profanity or insults that will immediately make things worse for the cause, quite frankly.
Yes, and I want you to know that I read all those.
Yes.
Sometimes there's hundreds and hundreds of them, but some of them are just one line, like, don't vote for this.
Right.
But I go through all of those.
Those matter to a lot of folks. So
yes.
And I would say there's been times where we've had a bill where every single piece of testimony on there is no, please, as opposed, and they still vote for it. And that's that's a opportunity for us to say, you guys voted for this and everybody said not to. So it is important.
It is important.
Please testify against HB 2025. Senator, I think we've come up to the end of our...
Oh, yes, I think we'll probably be in trouble with Katie because I think we might...
End of our time. We've come to the end of our rope.
Yeah, I think so.
I think we should probably go back to enjoying our Sundays.
That might be a good idea. Yeah.
Maybe it's warm where I'm at. I think.
What is it?
Oh, it's about It's 87 degrees where I am today.
Oh my gosh. And John Bender told me this morning that it was 36 degrees at his house here.
Well, I'm going to have an ice cold beverage.
Yeah.
That I think, and I believe my kids and I are going to go to the pool.
I think that's a really good idea.
Yes, and I will not be thinking about politics, transportation bills, or any of the sort.
Can you tell me, how was your train ride?
It was a blast. For anyone who cares, my son just turned 9, and he is a huge train fan. He's also
always has been
Chicago Cubs fan, and we do have a place in Nebraska as well as in Oregon, and we went from a place in Nebraska up to Chicago on Amtrak, and it was actually a lot of fun.
Good.
So I wouldn't recommend it for anyone who has to keep a schedule, but for someone who wants to have fun, it's definitely a great opportunity. So he had a blast. Cubs lost, though, so we're all sad.
Making memories. Wonderful.
Indeed. All right, everyone.
All right.
Thank you very much for being with us this week. We do this every week during session, once a month out of session, so we'll be back with you next week, unless there is a minor miracle and you get through this week.
It's always a question. Will I make it back in time for the June Dairy Parade, or will we still be on the floor?
You won't.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you, Adam, once again.
Thank you, everyone. We will be with you again next week.